When using the front end loader at night, the factory headlights do a really good job of lighting up the bucket, but nothing else. And even when the bucket's not in the way, the lights really don't work that well anyway. So I'm going to add an LED light bar to the ROPS, see if I can brighten things up a bit. As far as electrical goes, it's my understanding that underneath the fender here is it's already wired for an auxiliary work light, and I believe that's a 5 amp circuit. There's also the cell phone charger, cigarette lighter outlet as well. I believe that's a 10 amp circuit, and so I know I don't want to have to run wiring all the way from the front to the battery and underneath and so forth. So I'm going to try to find a LED light bar that draws 5 amps or less, so I can use this. If I can't, then I might have to go and use that circuit, but I'm going to see if I can get something that'll run off of that auxiliary light outlet. The mail came today and brought the LED light bar that I had ordered, and it took a while to find one that was of a decent size. That didn't draw more than 5 amps. A lot of these were maybe this size, and they were 15, even 20 amp draw. So I found one that's, like I said, as big as the size that I was looking for, but also with the power draw I was looking for. So we'll take a look in the box and see what we got here. That is the light bar itself here, and it's got some decent weight to it. Feels like quality piece. Like these are, let's see here. And also we've got a bag of oddware, mounting hardware, L bracket, and so forth. I'm not really sure how I'm going to mount this yet either. I don't know if if there's existing holes in the ROPS that I can use. I don't really want to drill into it if I don't have to, even though it's probably okay. But cross that bridge when I get to it. This is the wiring that came with the light bar, and it was a little bit of a surprise. It was probably in the description. I just didn't pay attention to it, but the reason it's a surprise is because I was looking for something specifically with a 5 amp draw or less, and this comes with a relay. And typically you wouldn't, have a relay unless it's something that's, high power draw. That way that you don't need, heavy duty switches. You don't have to run bulky cables up to the, your dashboard or whatever. But so now all of a sudden I'm thinking, how much does this thing actually draw? Now it does have a inline fuse in here, and that's a blade type, the green, and I can't read it, and I don't remember what green is. Is green 5 amp or is green 10 amp? I don't remember, but I'm looking at these cables. These obviously would go to the battery, directly to the battery. Those are what, 16, 18 gauge. That's maybe 10 amp max, or 15. Anyway, I'm going to double check the manual just to see what that circuit in the back can handle. Good idea, right? To check the manual after you order the parts, right? Yeah. So I was looking at in the manual, and it's kind of a discrepancy in here. So this is the information on those outlets in the back. There's the auxiliary, cell phone charger, whatever. That's a 10 amp circuit, and then this one here that's under the fender there. For the work light, it says DC 12 volt, 35 watt max. Okay, 35 watts at 12 volt is only like 2.9 amps. But then when you go and look at the fuses here, the fuse for that circuit says work light, 5 amp fuse, max 35 watt. So if it's a 5 amp fuse, that circuit should handle 60 watts. And if it's probably actually running closer to 13 and a half volts, which would be like 2.6 amps would be 35 watts. So it doesn't really make any sense there. So, now I'm wondering, since I don't remember what this is pulling, and it's got a 5 amp fuse in here, will it work with that auxiliary outlet? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to hook this up to a auxiliary power supply, the light, through an ammeter, and I'm going to see what it's pulling exactly. That way I know which way to go with this. I just have this temporarily hooked up to a power supply from a computer. I converted this over for a power supply for my battery chargers for my hobby battery. So the creative use of cords here, because I got one that's broken, so now I'm using these banana. Anyway, ammeter hooked up, and I'm going to go ahead and turn the light on, and then I'll see how many amps we're pulling here. 2 amps, a little over 2 amps. And granted, this is a Harbor Freight multimeter, so they're probably not super accurate, but I'll give it 10%. Okay, even 20%. Even if it's off by 50%, we're still way, plenty under the threshold for that circuit, which is 5 amps, and then they say no more than 35 watts in the book, which is actually 3 amps, a little under 3 amps. So I think that's going to work, just hooking this directly up to that circuit, and I'll add my... So here's a summary of my mounting conundrum, meaning I don't know yet how I'm going to mount this light bar. One of the options I could do is put U-bolts on that would clamp the L brackets to the ROPS. However, I have a clearance issue. Pulling in and out of the barn is not a problem. That's got a tall door, but when I pull it into the garage, there's zero clearance, and I'm not kidding you, it's absolutely zero clearance. And if I were to put U-bolts on, it's going to take away that clearance. And you might say, well, you can still do that, just be sure to put the ROPS halfway down if you pull into the garage, which sounds great and all, but if I were to use the U-bolt method, my next video would be how to repair your garage because you're an idiot and you forgot to put your ROPS down. I also considered using one of these magnetic toolbar or tool holder, and that would just mount the light bar to this, and then you could just stick it up on the ROPS, or you can move it, turn it around, or put it on the side. But then I really wasn't sure how to mount the light to this. I don't think I could have welded it because I think the heat might destroy the magnet. Maybe I could have cold welded it with some like JB Weld, or I tried to drill through it. apparently you can't drill through a magnet. It's like the hardest substance on the planet. So, and then I abandoned that idea just because, and now it's not much, but it's going to drop that a little bit further below the ROPS than the light already is going to be. And I'm 6'4", so I'm already worried about my big dumb head getting in the way of the light already. And so I figured keep that light up as high as possible. So I abandoned that idea. Another possible method is to drill and tap the ROPS to take bolts. However, that's a real good way to get a lot of hate mail. I've seen it. It's crazy. If you ever think you're not getting enough comments on a video, post a video drilling holes in your ROPS. People will come out of the woodwork to tell you they hate you. I mean, it's crazy. Like, they get like genuinely angry, So, yeah, I'm not going to do that. Now, I've voided a lot of warranties in my day, but this one I'm going to leave intact. So, as far as mounting the light bar, I decided to sleep on it for a night, and that wasn't very comfortable. However, by the morning, I did have an idea. Zip ties? Yeah. Here's one of my light bar with some beefy zip ties, and that might actually work, and really not going to cause too much. It doesn't add too much to the tops of the ROPS. I should still be able to get into the garage. Hopefully that works out. So yeah, I checked these. Man, you can they're kind of difficult to get to, but the bullet connectors, 4mm bullet connectors for that work light, check them with the meter, and they come on with the ignition switch. So they're not live all the time. But the problem is they're not actually connected to the light switch circuit. So you turn on the tractor, lights come on, not into the switch circuit, which means I'm going to have to add a separate switch. And I think what I'll probably do is go ahead and put it in this console here. I spent entirely too much time on Amazon trying to find a switch. This one apparently is waterproof, allegedly. But what I didn't realize is actually, until I got it, how deep this is. And it's got the the harness. It unplugs from the harness, which, if you were not to use it, would make it shorter. But I want to be able to take this off. So now the question is, where's it going to go where the depth of this is not a problem? And my original intent was to put the switch in the the side console over here. I don't want to put it up front on the dashboard. But then the issue comes in, well, how do I handle the depth of the switch? It's probably not going to fit there well, or here. And I guess I could probably put it up in the front of this. I don't really want to, but I'll figure something out. Also, always a good idea to do a dry run with the electrical hookups, which I did, and which is a good idea. I'm trying to follow that, which is like 19th generation photocopy, and it's not really clear exactly how that hooked up, but I did figure it out, so that there's a little light in there, plus it when it works with the light, so forth. So, yeah, and again, this light bar doesn't really pull a lot of juice, so this is a 5 amp switch that'll work plenty fine. All right, coming up, scariest part of the project, which is drilling a hole in your tractor parts and okay, installation complete, or at least for now. And I did manage to get the wires to run down to the work light auxiliary bullet connectors down there, and did get a switch in. And I did find a place that I could put the switch that's down inside of my cubby, and now this is a flush mount switch, so it shouldn't get in the way of anything. And I didn't have to run a bunch of wiring all over underneath the tractor to the front. And just reach in and push the button. Oops. Oh, and it's lighted. Bonus. Yeah. So now I just have to wait for it to get dark. One of my concerns about this, though, is the ROPS. They're loose. These things move a lot, and of course the light's going to move a little bit too. Now, whether I notice it or not, I don't know, but if I do, it's going to drive me nuts. And and this thing's always been like this, and it makes a lot of noise, and it rattles and everything. But what I did notice is there's this weld nut on here, and there's not one on the other side. And I don't know if that's for like an optional Kubota accessory that goes on there, or if there's something missing from my tractor that's supposed to come with it. But I found this does go all the way through, and I happen to find like the perfect bolt for that. If I thread this when I thread this bolt in here, it bottoms out on this side and sticks out just far enough on the other side to where it puts a little bit of, just enough to tighten up these ROPS. So it's not going to rattle, and the light's not going to move around. And I don't know if maybe that's exactly what that's meant for. I don't know. I looked it up in the manual. I couldn't find any information, but that'll take care of my ROPS rattle and the movement, so my light stays stationary. So this is just the factory lights on here. And then we'll go ahead and hit the switch for the light bar. And it's a huge difference. You could actually say it's a night and day difference, I guess. We'll go ahead and turn the lights back off again to do the comparison. Again, factory headlights, and then the light bar. The camera I'm using doesn't really do this justice. However, I think there's an auto light leveling in there. But the factory lights don't look as bad as they do on the video, but the light bar looks a lot better than it does on the video. That light bar, it lights up the trees and the sky, and I can see a lot further than what's really you can see in that video. So I'm just driving around the property to see the difference in the different areas. Of course, it's foggy tonight, which is making everything creepier. What I'm doing here is I'm going to pull the bucket up high enough to block the light completely. You can see I can't see anything here, and then turn the overheads back on again and see the difference. I did notice my big dumb head getting in the way just a little bit. It only casts a shadow on the hood, but nothing out in front of the tractor. So as long as I don't grow anymore, which I'm not, and my head doesn't get any bigger physically anyway, I should be all set.